Yeah, the Detroit Lions just made the smart move. It's not the most popular move, and it really is the first move that signifies a changing in direction for this team. The Detroit Lions are no longer the team that's like, hey, thank you so much. We appreciate all the hard work you've put in, so we're going to continue paying you money, even if you're not playing at the caliber in which we need you to play to pay you that money. Now they have moved into a season where it's like, hey, we don't have room for this. We're starting to pay the young guys who are balling out. Our best players are now the draft picks that we've had in the last few years. So sometimes in that, it means that there are going to be cap casualties. And in the most recent move, the Detroit Lions have released safety Tracy Walker. I think that this is a good move. I really do. I think, quite honestly, you have to make this move. He just has not been playing at a level that is acceptable to be paid $12.8 million against the cap. Now, let's go ahead and talk about a few things in this. Let's talk about the money we saved. Let's talk about what this does for our overall cap situation. Let's talk about some of the ways in which we can use that money. But also, let's start by talking about the way Tracy Walker has handled it and some of the history that he's given this team. And he's been here for 6 years. So first question, let me know. Are you happy with the move? All right. We save $5.5 million, but we have to pay $7.3 million in dead cap. Are you happy with the move? Or would you have rather kept him for 12.8 or whatever it is million against the cap and just let him play out the rest of his contract? So here's what he said. He said, Detroit, I want to thank you for welcoming me in as a rookie and accepting me as family. I want to thank the Ford family for giving me the opportunity to be a part of something special over these last 6 years. I want to thank my fans and supporters for always having my back through it all. I want to thank the city for holding down for me. It was many ups and downs, but that's life. And life is 10% what happens to you and 90% how you respond. With that being, the future is bright and tea time is coming harder than ever for year 7. God bless. Tea time out. All right. Tea time. Tracy Walker. Right. So it was a good 6 years, right? He was drafted, I believe, in the 3rd round, and it felt like at the end of his rookie contract, it was like, okay, he played really well, and it was the first year of the Dan Campbell era, and he was one of the best players on an absolutely historically bad defense that year, which was year 4 for him. And so they signed him to a 3-year, somewhere around $34 to $36 million contract. All right. And at the time, it was like, yep, this is what you have to do. You have guys that are playing well, and you need to do that for the players who are playing well. Like, that's just the way it goes. You have to give them the right amount of money. And so that's what they did. And he was young enough that you're like, this makes sense. However, over the last couple years, players started to outplay him. Ifeatu Melifonwu this year jumped him in the lineup. Kirby Joseph jumped him in the lineup. We went out and signed C.J. Gardner-Johnson, but the dead cap hit was simply too much last year to release him. Also, he had the torn Achilles, and it was so awesome to see him work so hard to get back on the field and get back playing relatively quickly. Honestly, it was really good. But he never quite became the player who he was again. That just didn't happen. And I think sometimes you realize, like, okay, there are players that are good, but we no longer have the luxury of playing a guy who's going to be a borderline starter, probably better as a backup. We did not have the ability to pay a guy like that $12.8 million. When you look at his production, right? Even going back to 2021, when we re-signed him, that year wasn't that great. It wasn't that great. He had a defensive rating on PFF of 63.8, right? And we can get into some of those stats in a little bit. And then this past year, he played 541 total snaps. He was out there quite a bit. All right, he was out there quite a bit, but he had a coverage grade of 57.8. Like, that's what he was supposed to be really good at. His run defense was 67.7. That's very, very fair. That's not bad, but that's not what he was supposed to be good at. All right? That's not it. So this year he had 39 tackles solo, no picks. All right? He allowed 16 of 25. His passer rating allowed against was 123.8. That's bad. That's very bad. All right? It's just not good. And so it just wasn't one of those things. The year that we signed him, his passer rating allowed was 102. He had an interception. That's always been his bugaboo, is he can't create turnovers. And if you are going to continue to play in a defense that wants to take the next step, you have to be able to create turnovers. And if you're getting $12.8 million, you need to be a starter. So what the Lions have decided is they can save $5.5 million on this contract. And by doing that, they can get a player that is better than Tracy Walker for that $5.5 million. That's what it looks like. That's basically what it is. And I'm not saying Tracy Walker hasn't been awesome for this team. He has. It's been good to have him for 6 years. But it just didn't work anymore. It didn't make sense. And now here's where the Lions find themselves. According to Spotrac, they are at almost $53 million in available cap space. That is with the $15 million in dead cap that they have with different contracts and the void years, and mostly all void years, actually, that they have on the books that they can't move. So $52 million. Again, I'd be giving a large amount of that money to St. Brown. I would be giving it, if we're going to re-sign Goff, to Goff. I'd even try and get in on it with Sewell if I could. But we'll see what happens. And they also could go out and spend in free agency to make a run at it this year. We'll see what happens. I don't know what their thoughts are. Like with the Detroit Lions, you never know what Brad Holmes is up to. He could be putting players into heavy contracts that are early laden this year because we have cap space, so he can pay Jared Goff, and Goff's our quarterback for the next 4 or 5 years. Or he could be saying, like, no, I'm going to go out and get stars because I plan on not keeping Goff next year, and I'm going to spend a large amount of money. Like, I don't know what he's going to do. You never do. He's just one of those dudes where he's very confident in what he's doing, and I'm kind of excited to see what it looks like. And I'm excited to see Brad Holmes take the next step of his GM maturation. I talked about this. Sorry, I have a little cold. I talked about this in a previous video. Is he going to be able to figure out the salary cap and free agency? Because we know he's nailed the draft. I'm excited to see what happens next. All right, thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next one.